what do you put first? Do you put ability with social, or experience with search, or general experience with online marketing first, or do you put language first, and then ask that, and then do you ask that person to be a jack of all trades, and as you're maybe suggesting there, so that because they know their market, they can then cover off a number of different channels? Or because you're leading with one strategy, do you make sure that they are reasonably well versed in, say, social, and then hope that they can get the rest? Because that's a crucial problem here. If you had somebody who was equally well versed in all of those channels and multilingual, how are you going to retain them? Let's face it, you'd have a superstar in your hands, and therefore...
And they'll be your boss.
They will probably be your boss, exactly. Exactly. Carly, can I start with you? I mean, what do you look for as the right skill mix for somebody to work in your team?
Well, for me, it's all about experience on social and knowing all the different platforms and the expertise on sort of knowing what's going on in the industry and the wider
first
industry.
Before language.
Yeah, because obviously we have the people in-house who speak different languages, so if we need translations, they're there for that purpose.
Right, okay.
So like social media strategy and expertise, really.
And they would go to the local market lead
Yeah.
and say, this is happening, I think you ought to do this.
Yeah, it's about sort of working really closely with the people that run the local markets.
And are they responsive to that person, or are they kind of don't like being told what to do?
Well, you've got to work together if you're part of a team.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just about sort of knowing what's going on in that and how you're going to support it socially.
Okay. Julian, do you have got anything to add there? I
think it's a very flat structure.
Right. Okay.
In at Team Lewis. I think we have probably 2 or 3 levels from us to the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very open, and it's a matrix structure as well. So there is country managers, but there is also specialist champions.
Right.
So for example, I look after some international markets, but I also oversee search. And we are, so you have champion per discipline. It's quite interesting, and nobody's responsible, or nobody's reporting to anybody. It's a flat matrix structure. It's very interesting.
So I am interested. I mean, so basically, the hierarchy is basically out of date. Does not function in this multi-skilled, multilingual world. Julia, I'm going to turn to you. I mean, there are presumably local market leads in each territory, and are they expected to be all channel experts, or where does the channel versus language or local market expertise sort of balance play off at Goodman's?
Well, the countries themselves, I suppose there's an awful lot of delegation to the own countries.
Okay.
So they really almost operate like their own BUs. But within those, the marketing team amongst Goodman is very, very small. It's extremely small. The UK team is stickers on a hand here. It's extremely small. So how we work is with partners. So you would get what I would call probably very highly skilled staff, not many of us, but highly skilled. And we would then seek partners like Greenlight to work with us. Okay. Hence we expect quite a lot from our partners. Yeah, okay. But I think that's the way a lot of marketing departments are really going. It's smaller teams, but getting quite effective partners to work closely. Yeah, okay. Yeah, especially in B2B. Yeah.
I'd just like to add something there to a comment that was made earlier. In a previous life, I worked with Edelman. Edelman, you'd think, oh, they can do it everywhere, globally. Actually, they can't, because even being the size that they are, and they're the largest, they still need to bring in people locally, have local knowledge or local skills or specific skills in a specific product set to deal with particular issues. It's just such a big job, and you have to manage the detail. So if you don't, the backside will get bitten.
Mm-hmm. Tom, when it comes to Boots, when it comes to employing people or putting people in post for a local market, what are you looking for? Are you looking for local market expertise above all, or is it the range or a specialism in search or social primarily?
Yeah, and I think for Boots, we're relatively new to digital marketing internationally, so at the minute we're going through and pulling together a strategy and looking at how we structure the teams. And I think for me that's a balance of one, how you want to structure in the work process, also the size of the market. So if it's structured centrally, then you can afford to have specialisms in traffic acquisition, so PPC, SEO. You can afford to have specialisms in social media, which work across all markets. Whereas if you decide to go for a localised structure, then maybe it's a digital marketing expertise with broad experience across the whole range of channels. But also, that is weighed up against the size of the market. So if the US is a huge market for us then, and we had local presence there, then we might want to have a acquisition specialist, we might want to have a social media specialist. So they're the real key things. I mean, the other thing that is a major concern when looking at international people that we have on the ground is the difference in level of experience. So if you look at Dubai and Thailand, they're relatively new to digital marketing as an industry, so the expertise out there are tops 3-4 years for local people, whereas in the UK, the US, there's people with 7-10 years experience in digital marketing, and it's a lot easier to find the people, whereas in the relatively new countries it's a lot harder to find the good people.
Okay. Yeah. Does anyone with you say?
At Perform we're a little bit different, I guess, because we're a sports centric agency. So for me it's about finding someone that can understand the sports that they're going to be working with, and that's essential because they have to understand the audience that they're communicating to. So we've got quite a blend really. We've got kind of an email expertise team that just work on email communications, and they work with the marketing execs who have their own sports clients. So that's very much a support function that they get help with rather than specialising in email themselves. Across the team we have people that have done a lot more affiliate work, or a lot more search work, or a lot more social media work. So between that team of kind of 5-6 people, there are areas of specialism even though they do the same jobs as each other. So for example, if exec 1 is going to do a social media campaign and exec 3 has done more, we'll use that exec to kind of help the other one to kind of really figure out what's going on and how to do it best and how to optimise it. So we use a lot of in-team kind of sharing, but we used to have the route of having a social media expert and an SEO expert. It didn't really work for the environments that we're in because they didn't understand the sports enough to execute the campaigns that really needed to happen. So we're now actually going down the route which Julie has kind of got kind of recruiting specialist partner agencies that can support those execs and kind of take some of the load and the expertise and really drill it into what we do rather than trying to rely on the execs to be a jack of all trades.
Right.
It was an interesting phrase you used, which was figuring it out.
Yeah.
Unless you're inside this business, you just don't know how much figuring it out has to be done. Everything that social media touches, what's this mean?